I'm joined this morning by Jessica Wright, who is a lead green associate and project manager with Eco Preserve here in Orlando, and by Rhonda Rollins, who is an environmental scientist with EPA Region 4 in Atlanta. Thank you both for agreeing to participate in the webinar series with us. The focus of today's webinar will be on waste. Also, I want to thank Chip Tatum with the Greater Apartment Association of Orlando, who is running the webinar for us and has been for our webinar series so far. So thank you, Chip, to you and your organization for all of your hard work. So what is the Central Florida Battle of the Buildings? It's a voluntary program that we have set up to help encourage commercial building owners in the Central Florida area, which is a 7-county region, to reduce energy, waste, water consumption at their facilities. I want to go to the next. So as you can see, we have quite a few categories set up, and we are trying to be as all-inclusive with every commercial facility. So we've got commercial warehouse, public assembly, which is going to be your libraries, churches, community centers, restaurants, hotels, retail, medical, both with small and large buildings. And then we have categories for mixed use and multifamily. So as of right now, we have participants in every category participating in the challenge with over 250 participants. So we're very excited for this new revised program that we've got going on. One of the other great things that we've been doing with the Battle of the Buildings is partnering with the University of Central Florida to develop the Energy Specialist Program. So what this is students from UCF went through a 6-week course to learn how to do building benchmarking and learn some energy efficiency, water efficiency, waste efficiency techniques. Then our energy specialist students have been available to participants of the challenge. So if a building has been participating but isn't very familiar with Portfolio Manager, how to collect data, how to input data, the students have been going out and helping those facilities. So it's been a great program that we're very proud to co-sponsor, again, with the University of Central Florida and the Central Florida chapter of the USGBC. And then, of course, everything that we've been doing with our challenge has been free. The webinar has been free. The Energy Specialist Program is free. We had a wonderful kickoff at the beginning of it, but we could not have done that without our wonderful battle sponsors, which you see here. So I'm going to turn it over to Jessica.
I think we're actually going to start with Rhonda and then go to Jessica after that, but I will turn it over now.
I apologize. Rhonda, take it away.
Good morning. I really appreciate the chance to talk to you guys today. Basically, I'm going to do a brief overview of the benefits of tracking your building's waste and recycling activities and a short walkthrough of how to track within Portfolio Manager. So it's my understanding that most of you are already somewhat familiar with what Portfolio Manager is and basically how it works for energy and water. So we're only going to skim the basics of those and focus more on the waste side. If you find that you do need more information on the background type information, you can also review the previous Battle of the Buildings recordings or the Portfolio Manager webinars on EnergyStar.gov. So first, why should you even benchmark your waste? Well, actually, there's quite a few reasons. You can improve your organization's sustainability, which can boost the company's image, positively engage employees, and attract quality tenants. It conserves resources. And finally, there's the old adage of knowledge is power. By understanding the amount and types of waste your company produces, you're able to find opportunities to reduce waste and ensure you're not overpaying for your waste and recycling services. Better reporting is also a huge benefit for each facility. The Portfolio Manager system allows you to have the same standard reporting across multiple facilities. It makes it easy to share information and for everyone in the company to work in real time from the same data. Now, how many of you have passed around copies of Excel spreadsheets or Word documents, uncertain if you're really working with the latest version? Portfolio Manager eliminates that potential issue. We're also hopeful it will lead to more organizations reaching out to their haulers asking for more and better data, providing market demand for that. And with increased and better data, we could eventually have comparative metrics similar to the concept behind the Energy Star 1 to 100 score. Now that score allows you to know how your energy usage compares to other buildings similar to your own. We'd like to be able to compare buildings to one another as it relates to waste and recycling. It would be really awesome if we could know how much the average office building or school or hotel sends to landfills, recycles, or composts. Now, many of you may not be aware that better waste management can also create local jobs and support your local economy. Have you ever wondered who really uses the stuff you put in the recycling bin? In 2016, there were over 300 manufacturers in the Southeast that need the items you put in the recycling bin to manufacture their own new consumer products. Of that total, Florida itself has 28 manufacturers with over $1.3 billion of annual sales, and yes, that is billion with a B, and who employ almost 5,000 people in Florida. Those Florida companies include examples like Sofadil America in Haines City, who buys recycled paper to make tissue and towel products. Owens Corning in Lakeland City buys recycled glass to make fiberglass. Ice River Springs in High Springs buys recycled plastic to make water bottles. West Rock buys paper to make cardboard containers, and many, many more examples. So that's all well and good, right? Recycling and waste reduction conserves resources, creates jobs, etc. But you're probably wondering, how does that help you and your bottom line specifically? Well, let's talk about that. I already mentioned that tracking waste can help you find efficiencies and make sure you're not overpaying for hauling services, thus saving money there. But the potential savings can actually be huge. Rooms to Go in Atlanta, Georgia has a pretty robust recycling program. And in 2016, they netted over $5.6 million. And I want to make sure I stress this. They're not a recycling company. They're a furniture company. Yet their recycling efforts added almost $6 million to the company's overall bottom line. But don't think that in order to save money, you have to implement costly, complicated systems. Some savings are actually pretty surprisingly simple. Let me tell you about Orange County Health, the Orange County Health Department in Florida. They were involved in another of our EPA waste tracking programs, and what they found was that they were basically paying someone to pick up their trash every single week, even though the bins often didn't have much in them. So they ended up making a change to their hauler contract, reduced the number of pickups, and instantly saved themselves about $260 a month. And that's just one example of how just the very act of tracking your waste materials could ultimately lead to savings. Well, now hopefully you have a taste of why you should be tracking and hopefully reducing your waste. So let's take a closer look at the new waste tracking tool itself. As I mentioned, the first step to realizing all of the benefits that we discussed is to actually track your waste management activities. Now, we're not going to belabor the basics because I know a lot of you have been in the Portfolio Manager system itself. But just in case, Portfolio Manager is a free online tracking tool that started as an energy tracker in 1999. Water was added in 2006, and waste tracking was relatively recently added in 2016. So now it's possible for a company to track the whole trifecta of energy, water, and waste all in one place, whether it be for one building or multiple buildings. Since many of you are already tracking your energy and water, you probably already have a lot of the basic facility information already in the system. So when we talk about adding waste, basically your facility needs to add bills for trash and recycling, as well as information on the size and frequency of the containers that are being emptied. So in the next few slides, we're going to quickly follow a sample facility through the process of entering waste data, which should seem fairly familiar to you as it relates to energy and water. So starting now, Under the My Portfolio tab, you're basically going to just click the tab called Waste and Materials and click Setup to get started. So step one, basically you're going to tell us what material you're tracking and where it's going, or rather how it's being managed. So I want you to think about the bins and dumpsters in your facility. You're essentially tracking when they're emptied, where does that stuff go? So using the example on the screen, basically every facility, of course, is going to have trash, and it has to be disposed of in some way. For most of you, it's going to be landfilled, but if it's incinerated or goes to waste energy, you're also able to specify that. But what about the stuff that isn't being thrown away or disposed? Well, in the next one, piece down, you'll see that at a minimum, hopefully you're already recycling the basics, such as paper, plastic, and aluminum. Also, perhaps you're donating older laptops to schools or office furniture to a local thrift store. And the third example here, perhaps you're sending the food scraps from your cafeteria out to be composted. So basically, these are your four management options for where's it going. As you see here on the screen, you're either disposing, recycling, donating, or composting everything. Now, I only mentioned a few examples, but there are 29 different materials you can actually track. And you can see a partial listing here. It essentially runs the gamut from the traditional recyclables to construction demolition materials, appliances, electronics, food, and more. Now for step two. How often is this stuff being collected? Well, you also have a few options here. So in the first block, let's say your trash is collected regularly and your hauler charges you by weight, so you're able to track by weight here. In the next example down, for your recyclables, it is also picked up regularly, but you don't know the weight, only that it's collected in, say, a 3 cubic yard container. Well, Portfolio Manager can calculate an estimated weight for you based on the volume you give it and ultimately how full the container is. So that's how you'll set up that sort of meter. And let's say you did a one-time donation of laptops. So that meter or material isn't collected regularly, but instead is intermittent, and you'll report the laptops in pounds. And the example here is with composting. Now, a really quick clarification, as you saw in the last slide for step two, if you don't know exact weights of materials, Portfolio Manager can estimate it based on the volume of the container and ultimately the how full it is. But if you're tracking the materials listed here in the blue box to the right, you're going to have to provide a weight estimate yourself, as Portfolio Manager doesn't have the capability to convert, excuse me, to convert those materials based on the volume alone. So now for step three, you're ready to input your actual data, hopefully on a monthly basis. As you're probably already familiar with the energy and water side, you don't have to do all of these 4 steps all at one time. You can stop after step 2 and then come back as you have time. But for this sample facility in the first block, you'll see when we're putting the data that we've reported that in January 2016, we disposed of 1,000 pounds of trash at a cost of $100. Down at the bottom, you'll see that for the same month of January, we had a 3 cubic yard container of recyclables. We're able to tell the system that it was picked up 6 times, and on average was about 75% full when picked up. The system will then take that and then estimate the weight based on that information. Also, if you're being charged for each pickup, or better yet, being paid for your recyclables, you could enter that expense or revenue under the cost column, which is not shown in this particular screenshot. I also want to make sure that you're aware that you have several options for how you input your data for the property or portfolio manager. The most basic approach is, of course, to enter the data manually, which is these steps 1 through 4 that we're walking through here. You also have the option to upload bulk data using spreadsheet templates. So you can actually upload a lot of information all at one time instead of the manual input for step one. Or you can work through a third-party provider, such as your hauler, that would upload the data directly to your account on your behalf. And this is called web services. And this is similar to how the system would allow, say, your electric company to automatically transfer your energy data right into your portfolio manager account on your behalf. So 3 different options for that. Now that you're convinced that, hopefully, that you need to track your waste and recycling, and you're seeing how easy that can be in Portfolio Manager, you might be wondering, where exactly are you supposed to get all this data? Well, the best option is to have actually measured data where you get the actual weights from your haulers. This is, of course, the preferable option, but unfortunately, it's not really widely available today. Now, many of your waste and recycling haulers, they may charge a flat monthly fee or simply pick up on a specific schedule, like say once a week, regardless of how much trash or recycling you have, with no weight information provided. Now, that's something that you might want to consider making this a requirement in your request for proposal when you're next in the process of contracting for a new waste hauler or updating current contracts. Another option is to estimate the weight yourself. If you have the ability to weigh a portion of the material, you can then multiply that by the quantity that you have. And then lastly, you could do it based on an estimation of the container itself and how full it is. Ultimately, if the waste hauler isn't able to give you any weight data, we do recommend that at least initially, you actually physically go to the dumpster before each pickup to look and record how full it is. And I realize that this may seem fairly onerous, but if you're going to track your waste and materials, this is actually incredibly important information to have. So now you've started entering your data. The last step, step 4, gives you the opportunity to tell us which meters to actually include in your totals so that the items aren't double counted. Now, this concept is similar to energy in that you're basically making sure that you don't count both electric meters and sub-meters, which of course would result in a double counting total. And finally, just like energy and water, the system will then generate a snapshot or summary page for your waste and materials. And these are really awesome because it gives you a very visual graphic representation of what's going on in your building. And they're really awesome to be able to drop into sustainability reports or stockholder reports. In fact, you can use that report itself that's already present within the system, provides a lot of really good information, but you also have the ability to create your own custom reports, which could include metrics such as just some of these examples that I included above. So we've covered why you should track waste, its benefits both to your company and the economy, and how the waste tracker tool in Portfolio Manager works. The additional resources that I have listed here could also help you as you get started tracking your waste and materials within the Portfolio Manager tool itself. Of course, in addition to the resources I listed on the last slide, I'm also available to assist with questions, whether that be on the system itself or on ways to reduce waste, outlets for some particular materials that you may be having trouble with, etc. My colleague Jenny in Region 9 is also very, very knowledgeable on all the technical gizmos within Portfolio Manager itself, like if you want to share your data with outside entities, if you want to try to get your hauler set up as a web service provider to automatically upload your data for you, that type of thing. But I really want to thank everyone for allowing me to come and speak to you today, and I look forward to working with each of you.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Rhonda while we transition here? All right. You did such a good job that they don't even have any questions. Jessica, you should have the presenter now.
All right.
Got it.
1 second. Let me get rid of a couple things. Make sure you guys are all seeing the right stuff. All righty. So good morning. Thank you so much. My name is Jessica Wright, and I am a project manager at Eco Preserve here in Orlando, Florida. And I apologize. I'm trying to figure out how to click over. There we go. So Eco Preserve is a woman-owned business located in Orlando, Florida, and we specialize in building efficiency, solid waste management, IEQ and mold assessments, community and government transportation, organizational planning, and training. So today we are going to talk about waste minimization and diversion. And I really like this quote from Howard Zinn. Howard Zinn is a historian. He was a professor, an activist, really around the issues of race, class, war, history, things of that sort. And he made this statement, not necessarily about environmental issues, but I feel like it's relevant to the subject that we're talking about today. And that is, Americans have been taught that their nation is civilized and humane, but too often US actions have been uncivilized and inhumane. And waste is one of those actions where I feel that we can definitely find a lot of room for improvement. So let's get right into it. Oh, we went the wrong way. Sorry about that. There we go. So what is waste? Waste is the materials that are coming into your building, the materials that are going out. So we're going to look at a couple of different things. We're going to look at your packaging, disposable versus reusable, paper versus electronic. We're going to talk briefly on the environmental preferred purchases and materials, bulk versus single. And then what's leaving your building as far as non-separated waste, unused materials, expired materials. C&D is actually construction and diversion, or construction and demolition materials, electronics, organic materials, and the materials that get into the wrong bin or contamination. So when we talk about waste and how do I minimize and divert my waste, most people say, where do I start? And one of the places that we like to start is material composition. So what's in the trash? What do you control and what can you do with it? And then we look at the purchases. Do you have sustainability criteria that you make your departments meet? Do you hold your producers responsible for the end materials? And then what are the behaviors of your organization and your build-in? Are they structured? Are they simple? Are they intuitive and adaptive? So when we talk about waste minimization and diversion, I think it's really important for people to understand the differentiation between the two words. So waste minimization is actually the reduction of the production of waste. So the optimization of materials, the reuse of materials, packaging, and the durability of materials that are coming in. And the primary departments that you want to focus on are purchasing and production. And then when we look at diversion, that is, okay, now we have waste, what are we going to do with it? And how do we divert it from the landfills? So the things that, most people look at are recycle, repurpose, composting, and donating. And the departments that we like to look at for that are every single department. Every single department has waste. Every single department has the responsibility of looking at their waste. So waste minimization and diversion is a marathon. A lot of organizations say we want to recycle, we want to get rid of some of our waste, but they don't look at long-term goals. They look at short-term goals. They want to make a small financial investment. They want to do a program right now, and then the program dies down. So one thing that we really want people to focus on is, what are your long-term goals? Do you want to get to 75%? Do you want to get to a zero waste campus? And with those goals, you need to have continuous financial investments. If you're getting credits back for your recyclables, putting that money back into a waste minimization and diversion program, and then having rigorous operational investment. So that is actually your process and procedures, making sure that you are defining exactly what your goals are and exactly what your expectation is of your staff. And with that, you're going to get staff enthusiasm and buy-in, because they see the value, and they see the fact that you're completely committed to this, and they know that it's a long-term project, and they want to be invested in it, and they want to see the end goal. So during the presentation, we're going to talk about running the marathon, and you're going to see a couple of slides that have a blue background, and those are ones that we feel are really important and we want you to pay attention to. So this one is very, very specific to exactly what Rhonda was just talking about, and that is documentation. You have to know where you've been to know where you want to go. You need to document challenges. You need to document your successes. You need to document opportunities as you see them. And then volume tracking process, report templates and assign personnel. So again, going back to the Energy Star portfolio, if you're going to track your waste through that, make sure that you have someone that's entering that data every month. Challenges and opportunities come up usually on a daily, if not a weekly basis in your business. So it's really important to be looking at these things and documenting them as they happen, so that you may not be able to address it right at that moment, but later on you'll be able to come back to it. So waste composition studies are a wonderful place to start when you're trying to minimize your waste. So we want to look at your waste stream. We want to know, what do you control or what do you influence? And then what opportunities for waste minimization, and then what opportunities for waste diversion are present. You want to gather the data. You want to have the hours of operation for the space, collection containers, the average visitors and staff that use the space, and then write a waste flow narrative. How is it collected? How is it transported? What does the vendor do with it when they collect it, and how do they process it? So the hours of operation are important, because if you're not able to do a full day's worth of waste for your waste composition study, then you want to know what percentage of the day you're auditing. If you're doing a half day, if you're only doing 6 hours out of a 12-hour day, know that, so that later on when you have the data, you can extrapolate what a normal day would look like. Preparing for the study, you want to pick a team, so people that are engaged and excited about this study. Waste composition studies definitely take a unique personnel to do these. Someone that's willing to, get down and dirty and dig in the trash. These people are usually the people that are really passionate about recycling. They're really passionate about making the operation more environmentally friendly. Pick a date. You want to make sure that there's no special events and it's just typical operations. Notify your custodial staff to let them know what's going on. You want to give them 24 to 48 hours notice, so that they know there's going to be an interruption in service for them, or if you have a specified location that you want to prepare the material in. And do not notify your occupants. You want to have typical waste behaviors happen during your waste composition study. Otherwise, your data that you gather will be skewed. And then identify the area for the study where you want to spread everything out and separate it, and make sure that you have lots of room. When you're preparing for the study, you want to gather all your materials: a scale, a tarp, gloves, booties, containers for sorting, and then trash and recycle bags, the audit form, and a camera. And then when we're looking at the date of the study, we want to confirm early in the day with the custodial staff of what hours they're supposed to pull the materials, where to place it, and then sort the bags by office use type. And the reason for this is, when we actually do the report for the waste composition study, we want to know where opportunity materials come from. i.e., if we find batteries in an office trash bag, we want to know that that office in particular needs additional education on your battery recycling program. We want to weigh the bags and record the data. This is called pre-sorted data. So that's what has been pre-sorted by the occupants in the building. And then you want to open the bags and sort by material. So your typical recyclable products: plastic, glass, cardboard, metal, mixed paper, bulbs, batteries, and organics. If you have other recycling programs in place, say you have a ink cartridge program or some other recycling program, add that to your list and make sure that you sort out those materials and you make sure that your recycling program is working. So now we've identified all of the materials. We want to look at contamination. What was the source of the contamination? For example, I just did a waste composition study about 2 weeks ago, and in the recycling, there were a ton of coffee cups. And so there was a misconception by the building occupants that the coffee cups were recyclable, and they actually were not recyclable. So we knew that we needed to do an education program for that client based off of coffee cups and what parts of the coffee cup could be recycled and which parts could not. And then we want to identify any unusual and repetitive items that we find in the trash that maybe we can divert them. So looking at disposable towels. Okay, if I'm using a slew of disposable towels, is there a way for me to use reusable towels and wash them on site? Was there a lot of prepackaged food that was still good? Can we look at a donation program? Things of that sort. So those are called possibilities. So anytime we write the report, we want to identify those things as possibilities, and we want to come back to look at them later. We want to document the material as an opportunity, and then again, we want to say where the source is. So was it from the cafeteria? Was it from a retail outlet that's on the exterior of the building of that? And then we want to weigh all of our sorted materials. So each of the individual materials that we sorted out, this plastic, glass, cardboard, metal, mixed paper, we want to weigh those individually, and then we want to put that on our form. Then we want to calculate our diversion rate and take that diversion rate and create a new goal for our building. So the biggest thing about this is you want to share the results. You've got to tell people what they're doing well and what they need some work on. Review the contamination sources and determine if you need additional education, training, or signage or bins. Identify departments that can help you with this. So if we're looking at prepackaged food, maybe we need to look at having the cafeteria create a donation program. If we're looking at disposable towels, maybe it's our housekeeping. Can we go to microfiber towels instead that can be reusable? Highlight opportunities and then start requesting suggestions. Encourage out-of-the-box solutions. Don't always look at the immediate answer, because sometimes your long-term solutions can be the most obscure solutions. So be open to ideas. Then we want to look at our bins and our signage and make sure that they're doing their job to educate and help the public know how to get rid of their waste. Waste or recycle bins must always, always, always be side by side. And I really, really emphasize that, because people say, oh, they're only 3 feet apart. Well, I'm sorry. Not a nice thing to say, but Americans are extremely lazy, and they won't take that 2 steps to get to that, that recycle bin that's 3 feet away. I've been at locations where somebody's, standing right next to a recycle bin, but their line of sight is a trash bin. So they walk to the trash bin and they put a plastic bottle inside of it. So it's really important that you put them side by side. And then it's also important that your bins be color coded. So, if someone can't read the words on it or understand the pictures, they'll understand the colors. And then signs should always have less words and more pictures. Below are some examples of really good signs that we like to encourage people to look at, and that's from Recycle Across America, which has standardized signage. So when we talk about running the marathon for this, we want to establish goals. So we know what's in our waste, we know what we influence, we know what we control. So we want to make some additional goals for ourselves of reducing solid waste. You want to assign it a percentage. So let's say, we want to reduce it 10% in the next 6 months. That's a great goal, and you want to make sure that it's something that's attainable so that you can share your success with your team. And then you want to look at increased recycling. Again, assign it a percentage. And then diversion of construction and demolition waste. If you have building construction that's going on, making sure that your contractors or your internal maintenance staff is diverting those materials. So now we're going to look at purchasing really quick. And we want to take a look at reviewing your purchasing behaviors. And the reason for that is, so let's say during the waste audit, again, we'll go back to the disposable towels. And why are we buying the disposable towels versus a microfiber that can be reused? Is it a financial decision, or was it an infrastructure decision because we can't find a space to put a washing machine in to wash and take care of those towels. So we want to look at the purchasing behaviors. Are we looking at the durability of products, compostable versus disposable, reducing packaging, talking with our producers and seeing if they can put things into reusable totes versus cardboard boxes, vendor take-back programs, looking at your electronics program, your lighting program, those sort of things. Those vendors a lot of times will have take-back programs. You just have to talk with them and do the financial analysis of whether or not it would work for your organization. And then looking at bulk versus individual. If you buy something in bulk, does it save you money? And can you use all of it? And that part of it's really important. Are you buying bulk and throwing 20% away because you save 10%? Or are you buying bulk because you need all of it and it never expires and it never gets thrown out? So when we look at all of the purchasing behaviors, it's really important to do a full cycle analysis of what you're purchasing and what part of that purchase is being wasted. And we don't want you to spend more, we just want you to spend differently. I know a lot of times, one of the big things that clients tell us is, I don't have a bigger budget, I can't make a bigger budget. So let's just look at spending differently, not necessarily more. All right, so when we talk about purchasing, one of the important factors is an environmentally preferred purchasing plan. And the executive order, said products and services have a lesser or reduced effect on human health and the environment when compared with competing products or services that serve the same purpose. So again, when we're looking at our purchasing, we want to look at post-consumer recycled content, the extended use or durability, sustainable agriculture when we're talking about food, local sourcing of food and materials, paper and wood products that are certified by the FSC. So now we want to look at our policies and procedures. This is the third step. Looking at your contracts and making sure that your contracts reflect your sustainability goals. When I look at your vendor contracts, we should be able to see what your sustainability goals are through your vendor contracts. Do they require waste minimization and diversion opportunities? When I look at your custodial contracts, I should be able to see that you're requiring their participation and support of your diversion programs. So that would mean that your custodial staff, no matter what programs you implement, would be there to support and help you run that program. They're your boots on the ground, they're your eyes behind the walls, and they can give you the most valuable input for your programs and what will work and what will not. Waste and recycling hauler contracts require support and reporting from your haulers. Make sure that you're holding them accountable for giving you the data, and also require a scheduled meeting. A lot of the haulers will provide a service person or a contract manager that will meet with you. And if you only require it every 6 months, that's fine. But having that meeting, you can find out what is the latest technology that your hauler provides. What are the latest programs? Have they improved their recycling program? Have they added additional materials? Or are they going to have changes with the new China national sword that will be implemented at the end of this year? Make sure that you're calling and talking with your hauler contracts and having those meetings and being kept informed with what your contractor can provide you with. Policies should also reflect your sustainability goals. So what does your waste management policy contain? Does it have requirements for documenting waste goals, required monthly reporting, and documenting responsibilities? Your staff policies should show that same initiative with participation and support of your waste diversion programs. And then your purchasing policy should require support and compliance with your EPP. So behaviors. Now this is the most challenging part, is the behaviors. What is challenging your staff? Taking a look at your waste composition study, why did you find batteries in the waste? Or why did you find the coffee cup in the recycling bin? Is it because they have a lack of understanding of what your recycling program is? Is it a lack of training? Is it a lack of interest? So we need to identify those, and then we need to use our internal green team or internal sustainability team and develop some programs to help educate, inspire, and encourage the staff to work with you on your waste minimization and diversion programs. So then we want to look at your guests. What is the reason why your guests are not recycling or they're not recycling correctly? Is it a lack of understanding? Is it a language barrier? Are the bins too far apart, or is it just a lack of interest? Again, use your internal green team, use your internal sustainability team, and find some ways to inspire and educate people. So changing behavior is incredibly difficult, but one of the things that you can do is you can try to inspire. Provide the easy system for them to participate in. Provide a reason for them to participate. If you're a specific building with a specific clientele, find out what motivates them and what excites them, and use that as the inspiration in your educational materials. Make them feel good about recycling. If you set a goal to improve recycling by 20% in 6 months, make sure you celebrate it and you tell them when you meet that goal. Education, metrics, show them your metrics, show them what you're doing well, show them what you're challenged with, and then show them how each person impacts your waste diversion and minimization program. Again, run the marathon. This one's a really, really important one. Create a green team. Your internal champions are the people that are going to drive your programs. So make sure that they're diverse. Look at purchasing, custodial, support staff. Make sure that you have at least one decision maker on the team with them. And then identify your goals. Do you have department-specific goals? Do you have team goals? Do you have a building goal? Do you have a corporation goal? And then make sure that that information is communicated with this team. Give them some leeway to create programs and ways to communicate with the rest of the staff. And then always celebrate your success. Big or small, celebrate them all. It's so important for you to share what you're doing well and what you've improved on. Use newsletters, awards, parties. Parties don't have to be expensive. They just, do a potluck and share the information of how your metrics have improved. For a building initiative, make sure that you're emailing to recognize people. If your custodial staff is helping out and they're really doing a great job making sure everything is recycled correctly, and or they came up with a great suggestion, make sure you show some gratitude and really give them kudos in your building email, your building newsletter, whatever it might be. And writing a waste roadmap. This is a rather laborious task, but it is incredibly important. Again, at the very beginning of this, we talked about documentation, about knowing where you are to know where you're going. This one is, you want to identify the path and how you're going to get to your goals. Identify your stakeholders. Who has influence over your waste? Encourage your staff, or engage your staff in giving you ideas and input on what the waste roadmap should be. What is your approach? What is your methodology? How are you going to get to your final goal? And then setting those performance targets in between your final goal and today. What initiatives and strategies do you feel you can use? And then set a timeline. You always want to have a date of when you want your improvements to happen. So to wrap all this up, keep moving forward. That's the most important thing. Meet your goal and then set a new one for yourself. Listen more and seize the opportunities that become available. That's where your staff and your green team and your guests, and even negative feedback is still feedback that can make you improve and make you better. Eliminate the waste, literally with your waste that's going out of the building, and figuratively, don't waste your time on programs that aren't working. Again, going back to documentation, if it's not working, stop it, document it, and make sure you don't try that again. And then continuous improvement, making sure that we're always looking at how we can do better tomorrow, what services, what programs, what technology is available to me. The EPA has the great tool that came out where you can track all of your power, water, and waste all in one place, which is a wonderful tool. And it's actually a great thing for buildings to be able to track all three in the same place and be able to create reports that can help you set new goals for yourself and continue with your positive improvement. So that's it from me. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. And I hope that these steps are helpful and can give you some places to start and some forward momentum and help you reduce your waste. And does anybody have any questions? I hear crickets.
I think you did such a good job. Everybody's dialed in.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you, Michelle. I appreciate the opportunity. Rhonda, thank you so much for the presentation on the EPA tools. That was great. And thank you, Chip, for helping us present today. That was really helpful.
It was my pleasure. Well, everybody, just a quick reminder that there are 3 more battle webinars coming up. On October the 18th is the next one at 9 a.m., and that's on tenant education. So that'll definitely be a good one. November 15th is the future of buildings, and then in December, we'll be talking about the successes and things that we've learned during this battle and getting ready for the next one. So with that, we'll wrap up the meeting. Everybody, Rhonda, Jessica, thank you so much. You both did a great job, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. You too.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.